Hector the Monster Hunter, the quest for peace in Maplewood. In a quaint little town called Maplewood, the chatter among the grown-ups was always about work, the weather, and the mysterious happenings in the forest. Most of the townsfolk chalked it up to myths and legends, but young Hector knew better. He knew that monsters were real, and he decided to become a monster hunter. With a wooden sword in hand, a flashlight, and a homemade cape, Hector set out on his first mission. His best friend, Rebecca, decided to join him, armed with a slingshot and a bag full of marbles. Together, they went into the dark forest, determined to make Maplewood a safer place for everyone. Their first encounter was with a growlfoot, a creature with big feet and an even bigger growl. Using his wooden sword and her slingshot, Hector and Rebecca scared it away. The growlfoot ran off into the forest, and Hector marked 1 point on his monsters vanquished list. Encouraged by their victory, they moved deeper into the forest. Next, they encountered a mudpaws, a monster that loved to get things dirty. It was making a mess in a beautiful clearing where the town's kids often played. Rebecca used her slingshot to distract it while Hector cleaned up the mess. Realizing it was outnumbered and outsmarted, the mudpaws scampered away. Word got around Maplewood about Hector and Rebecca's brave deeds. More kids wanted to join the monster hunting squad. Together, they devised plans, drew maps, and even came up with a handbook for monster hunting. The forest, once a place of mystery and fear, became their adventure playground. As time passed, Hector and his team learned something important: not all monsters were bad. Some were just misunderstood, like the Whifflebeak, who only stole food because it was feeding its young. Hector and Rebecca started to find ways to solve problems without scaring the monsters away. They helped the Whifflebeak find a new source of food, far from the town. Hector realized that understanding the creatures was as important as being brave. He started reading books on magical creatures, trying to understand their habits and needs. Rebecca, with her knack for invention, created gadgets that would help them on their missions, like a translator for monster languages and a harmless net for capturing them. Years later, Hector and Rebecca were not just heroes in Maplewood but also in other towns. Stories of their wisdom and courage had spread far and wide. Monsters were no longer a threat but a part of the ecosystem that people had learned to understand and respect. As adults, Hector and Rebecca opened an academy to train future monster hunters, not just in combat but in empathy and understanding. They taught that the real key to solving problems wasn't just bravery or strength but also compassion and knowledge. And so, the town of Maplewood became a symbol of harmony, a place where kids played freely, and monsters roamed peacefully. Hector looked back on his monster hunting days with pride and satisfaction, thankful for the lessons he had learned and the friendships he had made, both human and monster alike. The end of this tale marks the beginning of countless others as new generations of monster hunters took over, spreading wisdom, courage, and friendship wherever they went. And Hector knew that the most important lesson of all was that understanding could turn even the fieriest of dragons into the gentlest of friends. The story is over. Thanks for watching. The second story, Enchanted Academy, the magical tournament of Hector and Rebecca. In a world where magic is as real as the air we breathe, there existed a unique school called Enchanted Academy. This was a special place where young magicians honed their skills, learned to harness their powers, and competed in magical tournaments to prove their abilities. Among these young magicians were Hector and Rebecca, two best friends who always looked out for each other. Hector was a quiet but skilled wizard, known for his ability to manipulate elements like fire and water. Rebecca was a lively and talented witch, who excelled in healing magic and communicating with animals. They were both looking forward to their final year at the Enchanted Academy, especially because of the Grand Sorcerer's Tournament, a yearly competition that determined the best young magician in the Academy. The tournament was no ordinary event. It had magical challenges that tested the limits of each student's abilities. There were puzzles to solve, creatures to tame, and battles to win. But the ultimate prize was something more valuable than any trophy, the mystical medallion, an artifact said to grant any one wish to its possessor. As the days of the tournament grew closer, Hector and Rebecca dedicated themselves to rigorous training. Hector practiced his elemental magic, creating whirlwinds of water and flames, while Rebecca healed injured birds and talked to her animal friends to gather tips and advice. Finally, the day of the Grand Sorcerer's Tournament arrived. The entire academy was buzzing with excitement. The first challenge was to navigate through a magical maze filled with traps and riddles. Hector used his fire magic to illuminate dark paths, and Rebecca used her intuition and animal friends to guide them. They made it through the maze, moving on to the next round. The second challenge involved taming a wild magical creature. Hector and Rebecca faced a fearsome griffalocorn, a mix between a griffin and a unicorn. While Hector distracted it with his elemental magic, Rebecca used her healing powers to calm the creature. They tamed the griffalocorn and advanced to the final challenge. The final challenge was a duel. Hector and Rebecca looked at each other, knowing that they would have to compete against each other for the mystical medallion. The duel was intense, filled with sparks, flames, and magical spells. In the end, Hector had the upper hand, but he couldn't bring himself to defeat Rebecca. Seeing this, Rebecca smiled and surrendered. "Hector, you're like a brother to me. I'd rather lose the duel than lose you as a friend." Hector was moved by Rebecca's words. He won the mystical medallion but decided to share his wish with Rebecca. Together, they wished for a magical sanctuary where magical creatures could live in peace, away from the dangers of the world. Their wish was granted, and a new sanctuary was created. Hector and Rebecca became the youngest guardians of the magical realm, dedicated to protecting the creatures they loved. As they grew older, Hector and Rebecca continued to learn, compete, and explore the magical world. Their friendship remained strong, and they often revisited the sanctuary, reminding themselves of the incredible journey they had undertaken. Their story became a legend at the Enchanted Academy, a story of friendship, bravery, and the magical spirit of collaboration. It taught new generations that true power came not from winning, but from helping others and cherishing the bonds of friendship. And so, Hector and Rebecca lived their days fulfilling their roles as guardians, forever thankful for the magic that had brought them together and the friendship that made them stronger. They continued to look out for each other, ready to face any new challenges that the magical world had to offer. The story is over. Thanks for watching.